She provided his blood to an extraterrestrial warrior and received compensation beyond belief. Humans are vile, I whispered, observing the crimson fluid trickle from the receptacle. Utterly repulsive. My second in command, Vex, produced a noise akin to grinding rocks. Laughter for our kind. Commander Razak, you express that sentiment about every species we meet. Because every species we cross paths with asterisk is asterisk vile, I snarled, my scaled dermis undulating with irritation. But humans, they transport their internal fluid in mobile pouches and consider it standard practice. Who behaves like that? The sickbay of our battleship, the Fang of Goria, resonated with activity as Dr. Luzak, our head medical officer, readied the transfusion apparatus. I found it incredible that I had consented to this uncivilized procedure. However, when your vessel is marooned in an isolated sector with no backup en route, and your system is rejecting artificial blood replacements, your choices dwindle significantly. The human female nears, Vex reported, adjusting his stance. The portal slid aside, displaying the diminutive human known as Elana Tucker, a curious designation for a curious being. She moved with an assurance that contradicted her delicate physique. Humans were remarkably yielding. No external skeleton, no shielding scales, just thin flesh covering susceptible organs. How had they endured for so long? Commander Razak, she greeted with a nod. I've brought the blood you asked for. I scoffed. Asked for is a kind description. Desperately required would be nearer the mark. Tucker arched one of those peculiar strips of hair above her eyes. Would you rather I return it to our vessel? I'm certain your system will adapt to synthetic replacements eventually. In several weeks or months. Your sarcasm is registered, human, I retorted, my mandibles clicking in annoyance. Let us commence with this operation. Tucker passed the receptacle to Dr. Luzak, who inspected it with academic interest. It's intriguing. The molecular composition varies considerably from our own blood, yet initial assessments indicate strong compatibility with your distinct physiology, Commander. Just proceed, I grumbled, offering my arm and revealing the exposed underside where my scales were thinner. Tucker observed with those unsettlingly round eyes. You know, on Earth, blood donation is viewed as an honorable deed. People offer their blood voluntarily to aid others. How magnanimous, I stated dryly. On Goria, we would never taint ourselves with the bodily fluids of another species. It's abnormal. And yet you're here, Tucker countered, a slight upturn forming on her lips, an expression signaling mirth. I'd come to understand humans possessed numerous facial contortions. Interpreting them all was taxing. The needle breached my skin, and I stifled a hiss of discomfort. Dr. Luzak initiated the transfusion, and I looked on with revulsion as the red human blood coursed through the conduit and into my circulation. Why are you undertaking this? I queried Tucker abruptly. Your kind and mine have been locked in conflict for generations. Your people possess ample justification to allow my demise. Tucker gave a slight shrug. The Alliance advocates for peace. We've been attempting to forge diplomatic ties with the Gorian Empire for years. By polluting our commanding officers with your internal fluids? I sneered. She chuckled. It was a peculiar rhythmic noise, though not disagreeable, a fact I'd never concede. By demonstrating that humans and Gorians can assist one another, that our disparities are not entirely insurmountable. Naive, I muttered. Perhaps, Tucker allowed, but I am not the individual currently receiving human blood, am I? I found no counter to that reasoning, so I merely scowled at her. The transfusion is finished, Commander, Dr. Luzak declared after some minutes. Your vital readings are stabilizing. It seems effective. I moved my arm, anticipating a feeling of difference, perhaps more human-like. Yet I felt unchanged. Stronger, in fact. The debility that had troubled me for days was diminishing. How do you perceive yourself? Tucker inquired. Functional, I answered tersely. Your contribution has fulfilled its objective. You are welcome, she replied, displaying that curved mouth expression once more. As she pivoted to depart, an abrupt tremor rocked the vessel. Alarms erupted throughout the sickbay. Commander Vex's voice resonated via the communication system. "Unidentified craft approaching. They've initiated fire." I sprang from the medical berth, more stable than I had felt in weeks. "Battle stations, all hands to defensive posts," I commanded, then cast a look at Tucker. "It appears your peace initiative has met with difficulties, human." "Those are not Alliance vessels," she stated, concern evident on her face. "The insignias are incorrect." Another detonation jolted the ship, causing Tucker to lose her footing. Reflexively, I extended an arm, catching her before she impacted the deck. Our gazes connected in shared astonishment. "We must reach the bridge," I stated, releasing her swiftly. "Your familiarity with non-Alliance human craft could prove valuable." "You desire my assistance?" Tucker queried, that eyebrow lifting again. "I desire to survive," I amended. "If that necessitates temporary cooperation with a human, then so be it." As we hurried along the passageways, I experienced an odd sensation flowing through my system. The human blood was inducing something unforeseen. My senses felt keener, my reflexes swifter. I could overhear conversations from chambers we rushed past, detect the scent of apprehension from my crew in ways previously impossible. Asterisk-enhanced abilities emerge. Asterisk, something is occurring, I murmured, decreasing my speed. Tucker glanced at me, worried. "What is amiss?" "Nothing is amiss," I answered, genuinely perplexed. "Everything is heightened. I can perceive things I couldn't previously." "The blood," she uttered, eyes wide. "Human blood must be influencing your Gorian physiology in manners we hadn't foreseen." Another blast struck the ship, more forceful than the last. Commander Vex's voice crackled through the comms. "The assailants have penetrated the lower decks. They are boarding?" I looked towards Tucker, who appeared remarkably composed for someone confined on a damaged alien warship. "Well," she remarked with a wry smile, "seems our spontaneous alliance just became more compelling." And despite all circumstances, despite the peril, the disorder, and the human blood now circulating within me, I found myself replying with what humans might term a smile. "Indeed it has, Elana Tucker. Indeed it has." The command center of the Fang of Goria was engulfed in turmoil when Tucker and I entered. Monitors flashed damage assessments, officers yelled directives, and the atmosphere carried the odor of scorched electronics and fear. "Report!" I barked, striding towards the command dais. Vex pivoted, his typically impassive face showing astonishment. "Commander, you appear changed." I disregarded the observation. Status of the assailants? 3 craft, unknown design but employing human weapon signatures. They have breached decks 7 through 9. Our security forces are confronting them, but... He paused. "But what?" I pressed. "They are deploying some form of neural disruptor we haven't faced before. Our soldiers are incapacitated within seconds of exposure." I sensed Tucker tense beside me. "Neural disruptors were outlawed by the Alliance 5 years ago," she stated. "Only smugglers and pirate factions still utilize them." Every officer on the bridge fixed their gaze on the human, many with undisguised animosity. "This is Elana Tucker, Alliance envoy," I announced, surprised by my own protectiveness. "Her blood is currently sustaining my life, so she will be afforded respect." I turned towards Tucker. "What information do you possess regarding these pirates?" "If my assessment is correct, they are the Crimson Tide," she answered, "a mercenary outfit that separated from the Alliance during the border disputes. They prey on susceptible ships, scavenge them for technology, and sell the crew to biotech firms for experimentation." "Delightful," I muttered. "So much for humans being peaceful envoys." Tucker gave me a pointed look. "They represent humanity no more than your most savage warriors epitomize all Gorians." Another detonation shook the ship, dislodging several officers from their posts. "Shields at 27%, reported the tactical specialist. "One further direct impact, and we lose all protection." A peculiar serenity washed over me, accompanied by an unfamiliar sense of instinct. Was this another consequence of the human blood? Redirect all energy from non-critical systems to the shields, I commanded. Then shut down all power. Vex appeared troubled. Commander? Make it seem as though we've experienced a catastrophic system meltdown, I elaborated. Allow them to believe they've incapacitated us. When they board en masse, we will initiate our trap. And what trap might that be? Vex inquired doubtfully. I glanced at Tucker, who observed me with inquisitive eyes. What can you share about human biology, specifically their nervous systems? A slow smile crept across her face as realization struck. You intend to reverse the neural disruptors? Is that feasible? She nodded. Their disruptors function by flooding the thalamus with synthetic signals. If we could obtain one and reconfigure it to target the unique frequency pattern of human brainwaves while omitting Gorian brain patterns, Dr. Luzak could perform the modifications, I finished. It's hazardous, Tucker cautioned, and will require one of their weapons first. My mandibles clicked with eagerness. That will not pose a difficulty. I addressed my crew, who were observing us with mixed expressions of bewilderment and curiosity. I require 5 volunteers for a specialized assignment. We are embarking on a hunt. 10 minutes afterward, I stood in the weapons locker with Tucker and 4 of my elite warriors. The vessel had plunged into darkness, emergency lights bathing everything in an uncanny crimson luminescence. You ought to remain here, I instructed Tucker while inspecting my plasma rifle. It presents too much danger. She smiled that vexing, knowing smile. With due respect, Commander, you require my presence. I can recognize the disruptor types and assist in their modification. Furthermore, I understand human psychology. I can predict their actions. I wished to object but could find no flaw in her reasoning. Very well, but remain behind our position. As we navigated the darkened passageways, I observed again the heightened state of my senses. I could perceive the intruders 2 levels below, detect their characteristic human odor, even sense vibrations through the decking that revealed their locations. This is unsettling, I whispered to Tucker. I can sense the invaders. They are advancing in trios, systematically securing each area. She regarded me with fascination. Your pupils are enlarged and your scale hue has intensified. Asterisk, the human pirate. Attack and neural disruptors. Asterisk. The human blood appears to be activating dormant genetic expressions within your DNA. Is it enduring? I inquired, uncertain of my feelings about the possibility. She shrugged. Unknown. No Gorian has ever undergone a human blood transfusion, to my knowledge. Wonderful, I muttered. I'm a living experiment. Consider the positive aspect, Tucker responded. At least you're no longer experiencing boredom. One of my warriors, Crow, signaled from further down. Commander, intruders nearing this intersection. I nodded, arranging my unit within the shadows of a utility alcove. Recall we need 1 captive alive and their weapon undamaged. The pirates came around the bend, outfitted in black combat attire bearing red emblems on their shoulders. 3 humans, just as I had sensed, armed with standard plasma rifles and what seemed to be the neural disruptors secured to their belts. We held back until they moved past, then I initiated the signal. My warriors acted with honed accuracy, neutralizing 2 of the humans instantaneously. I propelled myself towards the 3rd, securing him against the bulkhead before he could grasp his disruptor. Do not move, I hissed, my mandibles mere inches from his face. Terror permeated his eyes, not merely the standard fear prey shows when trapped, but something more profound, recognition. You're altered, he stammered. Your eyes? What are you? I ignored his inquiry, detaching the neural disruptor from his belt and passing it to Tucker. Is this the required item? She inspected it swiftly and nodded. ND7 model, ideal. Deliver this to Dr. Luzak, I directed one of my warriors. Inform her of our needs. As the warrior left, the human captive stared between Tucker and me with dawning understanding. You're collaborating with Asterisk them Asterisk? He spat at Tucker. Betrayer of your species, Tucker observed him impassively. Says the individual who targets defenseless ships and trades people for experimentation. We take necessary actions for survival, the pirate growled. After the Alliance's actions during the border wars, can you fault us? Yes, Tucker and I stated in unison, then looked at each other, surprised. I restrained the captive and instructed my team to head back to the bridge. As we progressed through the ship, bypassing other pirate patrols, Tucker kept casting curious looks my way. What? I finally prompted. You move differently, she noted. More fluidly, less stiffly. And you made a jest earlier. I've never known a Gorian to make a jest. I have no idea what you are referring to, I stated rigidly. She smirked. Certainly you don't. Upon our return to the bridge, Dr. Luzak was present with the altered disruptor. I have recalibrated it to target human neural frequencies exclusively, she reported. If linked to the ship's communication network, we can disseminate the effect throughout the vessel. Execute it, I commanded. As Luzak commenced work, Vex approached. Commander, the pirates have seized control of engineering. They are trying to bypass our systems. I shut my eyes, concentrating on my newly amplified senses. I could almost perceive the ship as an extension of my being, sense the invaders traversing its corridors like a contagion through a body. They are massing their forces on decks 5 and 8, I stated,